Welcome to Crisis in Perception, where we examine the systems shaping our world, one book at a time. So today, we're going to look at a system that feels incredibly personal, but is also a really powerful legal and economic institution, marriage. We're going to explore this provocative idea that our intimate lives can never really be separated from economic design. Let's get into it. All right, let's just jump right in with a pretty disruptive claim from the anarchist writer Emma Goldman. She basically says that the popular idea, that marriage and love are the same thing, well, she says that's not a fact at all. It's just a deeply ingrained superstition. And that's really the core conflict we're going to unpack here. So, our source for this is Goldman's 1911 essay, Marriage and Love. And we're not just looking at this as some dusty old historical document. We're actually using it as a really sharp tool for systems analysis, a way to see the hidden mechanics of an institution that, let's be honest, we often just take for granted. So, what's Goldman's core claim? At its heart, she defines marriage not as some romantic union, but primarily as an economic contract. She calls it an insurance pact, where a woman, especially back then, pays a pretty steep premium. Her name, her privacy, her independence, all for the promise of lifelong economic security. You see, Goldman draws this really sharp line in the sand. On one side, you have love. It's spontaneous, it's free, it's a voluntary attachment. And on the other side, you have marriage. And that's an institutional contract structured by things like economic need and legal rules. Now, here's the crucial point. When our actual survival is tied to that contract, our emotional lives are inevitably going to be shaped by its economic logic. They have to be. To really get our heads around this, let's use a single central metaphor. I want you to think of marriage as a scaffold, the kind you see on buildings. It was originally built for a very practical reason, to provide economic support and ensure survival, especially in a world where that was incredibly difficult for people to achieve on their own, and particularly for women. And you can see how this scaffold gets built step by step. It starts with a very real economic need. So the scaffold, marriage, is built to meet that need. But then, over time, what was supposed to be a temporary support structure, it becomes permanent architecture. It solidifies. It becomes the only building on the block. And because of that, our intimate lives are forced to take shape inside the rooms and hallways that were defined by that original economic structure. So you might be wondering, how does this whole architecture stay standing? Well, it's not just one thing. It's held in place by a series of really powerful interlocking patterns that all reinforce each other. First, and this is the big one, you have the raw economic constraints. As Goldman points out, the question for a young woman wasn't just, does he love me? It was, can he support a wife? Practical survival becomes the main thing driving the whole decision. Then you have these powerful cultural narratives that come in and frame this economic necessity as some kind of romantic destiny. Goldman writes that from the time they're tiny, girls are taught that marriage is their ultimate goal. And this makes complying with the system feel like a personal aspiration, not an economic calculation. And you can totally see how these factors create this powerful feedback loop. The economic need pushes people towards marriage, the cultural stories glorify it, and that combination it normalizes economic dependency. It makes the system self-perpetuating, and it makes it harder and harder to even imagine, let alone build, any other kind of structure for your life. So why does any of this matter? What does taking this systems view really help us notice? It reveals that our most intimate relationships are not just a matter of personal feelings. They are profoundly shaped by institutional design. We're not just choosing a partner. We're operating inside boundaries that have been set for us by economic and legal systems. And this really gets to Goldman's ultimate point. By reframing marriage as a system, we can see why so many debates that focus only on love kind of miss the bigger picture. For true companionship to ever flourish, Goldman argues, the parent force has to be love itself, totally free from economic pressure, not the institution that was designed to manage it. And this leaves us with a reflective question, not an easy answer. Because once you see the scaffold, you really can't unsee it. So the question becomes, how do institutions, past and present, design the boundaries of our intimate lives today? This project is free and publicly accessible. If you'd like to support the time, tools, and research behind Crisis in Perception, you can become a supporter on Patreon. For a longer, audio-based analysis of this topic, see the deep dive linked in the description. If you enjoy this kind of systems-level analysis, please like, subscribe, and comment with books or topics you'd like us to explore next.